Thank you all for coming today to see the show and to hear us talk about women, art, and social justice. We are here at Basin Gallery Studios in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And I want to give a shout out before we get going to the wonderful women artists and gallerists, Jaimie Walker and Liz Galvin. If you aren't already, I'm going to ask you to please follow them on Instagram. Please share, please like, please invite your friends and family to support this woman-owned and operated business. I will say this show is a powerful show. All of the women in the show have been making important art for decades, and there's a lot of galleries who wouldn't have touched this show with a 10-foot pole. So really a big shout out to Liz and Jaimie for helping me bring this important art to their fabulous gallery. Round of applause. So as I've already said, all of the artists in this show, Rodriguez Calero, Airco Caravan, Daina Higgins, Arlene Rush, and a few Larkos, that would be me, Valeri Larko, your friendly curator. All of the women in this show have been making important art for decades. This is work that I hope gets seen by a much larger audience. I think we can all agree that, you know, they have that saying, the future is female, although not so much these days. We've been backtracking, not just in the United States with the overthrow of Roe v. Wade, but also all over the globe. All of a sudden, women are supposed to be barefoot and pregnant, never need any health care, just pop out those babies and, you know, stay home. And if you aren't, you know, cisgender or the right color, you have no place either. So this has to end. I think we all can agree that human rights, social justice, women's rights, these are all very important things. So I'm going to start with my dear friend, Rodriguez Calero. She has been my friend for decades. We go way back. I used to run a college art gallery in New Jersey in a former life. That's how long ago it was. And Rocco was one of my very first solo shows. I love her work, and I love this new series that she's working on. It's not necessarily a series, but it really deals with the same women's rights, you know, human rights. All right, you're up, baby.
Not very good at speaking, so I have everything written down, and I get very nervous. And
You're fine, baby. Just go.
Put up with my reading. So basically, what I want to say in general about the artwork, and it's the classical and urban imagery combines a range of symbolic themes to construct ideas and feelings of an instinctual and emotional involvement. And hopefully these conceptual images are engaging and thought-provoking and speak without the need for much elaboration. So this, in general, is what I try to say. The first painting, so what I call my works are acrylage paintings. The first painting is a life cut short. And this was about all the senseless prejudice, anger, racism, hate crimes, and acts of humanity against people of color, all in the name of making America great, results in unnecessary loss of lives. And a lot of this imagery it comes from the media and my neighborhood, the community. So I'm always surrounded by people of color and Asian people. So it's very strong and heartfelt for me. And then during the pandemic, we were having all these senseless attacks. So this is Target and Prejudice 1 and 2. And here here I say, a long tradition of violence and discrimination against Asian Americans is woven through the nation's history, and part of American culture has been minimizing and pretending discrimination against Asian Americans can't and does not exist. Yet already there has been a rise of racially motivated threats and attacks, especially against Asian American women in the United States. And here I wanted to do, as you can see, it's based on classic and urban, which I feel, but I wanted to show the heritage and lineage and representation of Asian people and culture and what they have brought to us here in America. And then this piece is called Exposure to Violence. Again, here we're having senseless attacks on women. So here, Muslim women wear the hijab as an integral part of their identity, an expression of personal choice. The wearing of the headscarf empowers Muslim women to express their faith and modesty, and is a fashion statement. For these women, choosing to cover has been a way of demonstrating assertiveness and agency of being in control, control of their bodies. Ultimately, this expression has been viewed with prejudice, misogyny, and racism. Muslim women wearing the hijab are stigmatized as threatening. Their headscarf or veil is the visual embodiment of what makes Muslims other. It's really strange, I think, clothing causes so much prejudice in this world and senselessness. And this piece, for some reason, and I don't understand why, but I'm appreciative, this piece is called Demystify. And it seems during the exhibit, I've had a lot of people come up to me regarding this piece. And what I wanted to say here was, women are placed in the position to constantly explain their purpose in life, apologize for being, act not capable. Women are defining themselves and no longer need to be inconspicuous. And then I have an urban series. I also do photographs, and these are photographs. And this is called Shroud of Innocence. This is a series, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And it comes down to the hoodie in history is an item of clothing for comfort, warmth, and social status. With time, the hoodie became stigmatized, and those who wore hoodies were associated with graffiti artists and crime gang members. The hoodie resurfaced and became a symbol that represents discretion, dignity, and defiance. Shroud of Innocence questions one's perception of the hoodie. The garment becomes a cloth placed over or around a dead body to shed light on senseless murders and prejudice. And then my collage work. The collage works here turns out is a part of a series which I call Master Artists. So this series is based on classic artists. So Ophelia, and I'll give you a little background on the pieces. Ophelia, which is this piece here, it's painting by the British artist Sir John Everett Millais. Ophelia is a character in William Shakespeare's drama Hamlet. She is driven in a state of madness and ultimately leads to her drowning when her father Polonius is murdered by her lover Hamlet. Now, my Ophelia has been contemporized. It is a testament to honor and dignify all women who still have not been found and are not forgotten. The imagery is of a woman of color who has been abused, violated, murdered, and disposed of in the waters, and whose body has resurfaced to claim justice for her disappearance. The centerpiece comes from Francisco Goya's painting, La Masacre de Mayo. And it depicts a massacre which took place in Madrid on May 3rd, 1808, by French soldiers who executed hundreds of Spaniards, rebels who revolted against the French invasion. My image is echoing January 6th insurrection and the continued violence for those seeking basic human rights. And actually in the original one, I sort of stressed the point of the hand being raised. It's also a form of a stigmata. And Susanna and the Predators is done by a fabulous woman artist, Artemisia Gentileschi. And she was 17 years old when she did the Susanna and the Elders. The painting illustrates how a girl brought up in society and ruled by men felt about the constraints of this world. And it's an epic, lifelong fight against sexual violence. So I changed the Elders into the Predators. And actually, when I find my images, I really don't know anything about the artists or the paintings. And then I do the collage. And then after I said, well, why did I choose this piece? So, and it's just a gut feeling. So what I found out about the piece on the top, at the time, she was 17 years old, working among incredible other artists, male artists in studios. And, you know, unfortunately, because she was young and assuming beautiful, she was violated and raped by her professor or master artist who were, at that time, were studios. So, and then I have two sculptural pieces in the window, and they're based on Roe versus Wade. So, and it says, women's rights and struggles are constantly challenged throughout history. We must not turn back time, but continue to move forward for the betterment of our unalienable rights. And thank you.
Bravo. Next up is Airco Caravan. She's via Amsterdam, via the Netherlands. Airco has been an activist for many years, both in Netherlands and in the United States. She and her husband now live in Upper Manhattan, and I'm going to let her talk about how this series of spray bottles and pest control got started. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Well, thank you, Liz and Jamie, for giving the opportunity to exhibit here, and Valerie for curating it. Valerie told already that we moved from Amsterdam to the Netherlands, from the Netherlands to New York. That was almost 2 years ago, and the first thing I had to buy was a spray can of Raid, because in our apartment there were some animals hanging around, and we all know them. And I started spraying them, and it was very effective. So that brought me to this idea, because there's so much shit in the world, and wouldn't it be nice if we would have a spray bottle, a spray can, to get rid of all the shit in the world. So that's how this series started, and now it's a growing series of more than 150 products against misogyny, against racism, against war, against firearms, against everything, against, Trump, Putin, everyone is in it. So, actually, this one was the very first one I designed. That was the Zappa Racist. And it became a series like Zappa Can, Zappa Karen, Zappa Becky. We got Zappa Fascist, we got Honey, if men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament. It's a famous saying. And so it grew and grew and grew, and after the designs I started to make the laser cut acrylic with labels and gemstones, and I also made real spray bottles and real spray cans with labels on them, and I used them in a performance in DC when we were having a feminist art parade just before the elections. Well, Mexico just legalized abortion. That's the opposite from the United States. that overturned Roe v. Wade. So now we have to travel to Mexico to get an abortion. Instead of the other way around. You see it's a huge wall. And after that, I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice if we would have like massive cast resin, solid cast resin spray bottles. So, and they have different colors, different themes. This one is about the war in Gaza, the killing of the people in Gaza. That's why I did this Free Palestine. And this huge spray bottle, well, I like it very much. It's really heavy. And, you can use it maybe to smash someone in the face if necessary. And, here we have the real spray can, the separations. We also have MLK spray. And we have some career care extra. We got transgender care. We got non-binary Shine Plus. We got Turf Terminator. We got Don't Buy It Smash Pink Wash. And of course we got the Fuck No, Hell No, Fuck It over my dead body. So basically this is my little store full of products to make the world a better place. And all the way in the back, there's some woven tapestries, wall tapestries. So here's one. I got a few of those. Those are woven, but also it's the same story, it's the same product in a different medium. And we even got some more of those spray cans and spray bottles. And also some soft ones. If you don't like the message, if you think the message is too hard, I also got the softer ones.
It's a wonderful message.
So yeah, that's basically it. And I want to invite you to take a closer look and see if you like them. And if you have any suggestions for new products, please feel free.
There's always going to be new products.
Yes, I think so. I'm not ready yet. So thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to go on now. We will have questions and answers at the end, so we're just going to move right now over to Daina Higgins. Come on over, Daina. These are Daina's amazing oil paintings. She's going to talk about how this series was created and what brought her to this point. But I also want to point out that Daina was a graffiti artist very early in her career, and there weren't a lot of graffiti women artists in Ohio where she started that early career. So she was a trailblazer, and now she's going to talk about this work that started during the pandemic. Go ahead, Daina.
Thank you, Valerie. I picked up a spray can about age 13. I was a Catholic school student at the time, and I, became aware of deep, institutional misogyny. Growing up in the Catholic religion, became very aware of it. And so I saw some graffiti around and I thought I would like to try it. And I always wanted to be regarded on the same level as my male peers. I didn't really want to be, I just wanted to be like skilled in the way that they were, and I was very involved in this American form of folk art for about 10 years. And so writing graffiti taught me 3 important lessons. One is how public space is used and who gets a platform in public space and why. And it taught me about bullying, in my case, misogynistic bullying, but also bullying by my male peers that I had to overcome. I've had battles with male peers, graffiti battles, and really just trying to, make my name. So the third thing it taught me about was, racial violence or violence by the police and the police state. I was beat up by police. Many of my peers were beat up by police. So fast forward to about 2015, when the level of police brutality is really sort of coming to a head in the United States. Trayvon Martin, and from there, we had, Trump got elected, of course, and that sort of unleashed, the reaction from having a black president for 8 years. And so in 2017, there was a proposal in Charlottesville, Virginia, to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee from a public park. The right wing in the country reacted to that with a riot, which we're all familiar with. And then fast forward again 3 years, because things just tend to snowball. We went into quarantine lockdown during the pandemic, and at the time I was working on a very different series of oil paintings of just my local street. I'm very interested in architectural space and urban planning. And so I was focusing on sort of like depopulated scenes around me. I couldn't go very far because of the quarantine, but like this scene, for instance, which is just a painting of my local park. And then, so that's like maybe March 2020. And then George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered by police, and people came out from quarantine to demonstrate against that. So me thinking it's important to sort of record our moment in history for posterity as, a representational painter, I began to pull images from the news of defaced and toppled colonial and Confederate monuments. So there are about 1,500 monuments, road names, building markers, plaques across the United States. And during that summer, about 150 so statues were pulled down or otherwise removed. What struck me about it was the graffiti. The graffiti, to me, something so, it's sort of like the pressure from below, the sort of, the folk art and the people, sort of like acting, outside of the institution, applying pressure upwards. But the other thing is that graffiti is so ephemeral, it doesn't really last, it's always about like this temporality. And then when it was applied to these very like permanent monuments, it was like a clash of like this ephemeral and this permanence that caused that permanence to be done with. So after a while, I started taking the monuments themselves and recontextualizing them in scenes that were physically around me at the time. So I have this painting, which is of the Charles Lynn Monument in Birmingham, Alabama, that was toppled. And this image was recontextualized in my local park. So it was just really struck me doing the research on this kind of form of public art, by the dominant culture, and realizing that this monument in particular was installed in 2012. That's, I kind of wanted to make something like beautiful and elegiac, but also just with like a powerful sentiment, that the people have spoken. And so hopefully that is a sign of more changes to come. It gave me hope, and it was affirmative for me at the time. I think that's why I really latched into that subject matter when we were all kind of, going through this mass, casualty situation in the US. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Daina. I like the way you connected the graffiti, which is, fleeting, and then the end of the permanence. The graffiti, as you said, is from the bubbling up from the masses. And it's really a strong sentiment, and may more of those monuments get toppled. Anyway, next I'm going to talk briefly Arlene Rush. These are her mixed media and sculpture pieces here. We have one here too and a few in the window. She could not be here today. She had another obligation, so I'm just going to talk briefly about them. Arlene has also been making important art for decades, and she deals with misogyny, gender, the way women and men are looked at in our society. One of my favorite pieces, speaking about the former guy, and I think we all remember how he was bragging that he could grab them by the pussy. Well, I love this photo. As you can see, she has made some changes to it. There is Condon, as I like to think of his head up there, and that's what you get for grabbing pussy. And if you look very closely, there is a very small penis that has been removed from the male. So I love this poetic justice. Obviously, it's a metaphor, but I think it speaks very strongly. And as are the other pieces of hers, women are only brought up to think we need a diamond ring or a guy to make us happy or money to make us happy, and the almighty penis is always worshipped. We all know this. But I like the way she puts a little diamond in the, let's call it a pussy. It's just a beautiful little pussy. And I think this is a very funny piece, too. This one right here with the golf balls and the ripped dollar bills. Because, power, men, golf, money, it all seems to go together. And I find that one particularly humorous. There's a few more in the window. I love the little Limoges thing with the, once again, a very small penis. So, sorry she couldn't be here today, but I'm glad you get to see some of her work. I'm just going to end, before I take questions, talking about a couple of my pieces. I am a urban plein air painter. I paint my paintings on location. Although everybody thinks that they're exactly reality, but I paint well enough that they're Valerie's reality. So if I need to change things to get something out there, I absolutely will. Like this particular piece. This is a real billboard. It is in the Bronx. I did paint it on site. And someone had put, right after Roe v. Wade was overthrown, someone had put up the banner, abortionfunds.org. And I thought, this series, by the way, is called Sign of the Times. And I thought, that's really a sign of the times. We shouldn't even need that banner to be up there. Women shouldn't have to worry about whether they can get health care. An abortion is health care. It's not like a woman wakes up one day and says, oh, I think I'll get an abortion. Doesn't work that way. Anyway, I made a few changes to this painting. The piece of red there that you see there, that was a piece of black plastic. I made it red to symbolize the blood of women who are dying or will die from botched abortions. We all remember coat hangers. Maybe you don't. Some of you are younger than me. But I remember when that was a thing. I also added the airplane for the women who are lucky enough to be able to fly out of a red state to a blue state to get the health care they need. As I think most of us have heard through the news, there are women who have non-viable fetuses in their bellies, and all of a sudden, they're going to die or they're going to become toxic, and they can't get a legal and safe abortion. I have to say, as Echo has said with her spray thing, over my dead body, are we going to let women die because they can't get health care? Remember to vote. Very quickly, if you want to come down here, I have a few more. These kind of go together in a funny way. The bottom one I'm going to talk about first, because this is love it or lose it. It's about the environment and about the oceans. And that's one of the few, as a matter of fact, I think it's the only environmental billboard I've ever seen. I painted this on site in New Rochelle. I live in southern New Rochelle. The other two, well, I think they pretty much speak for themselves. Size matters, non-surgical enhancement, 188 for larger, out front medium. So men are worshipped, you can see why I find the golden penises funny, for their fertility, for their sizes, virility I should have said, their size. Who needs a 12-inch penis? Well, apparently some people do. And then this one is hilarious with the woman with the banana under her nose. Regain your appeal, spelled wrong, obviously. And, elevate wellness. Again, men have to be virile, they have to be able to, get it on. But God forbid the woman gets pregnant, all of a sudden they run away and the woman's, the bad guy, and she needs to be punished as the man goes into the evening. Now, let me just say, I love men, I'm married to one, so I'm not anti-male. What I am is anti the stereotypes that we are all forced to listen to, and the United States tries to push on us. And one more thing about the government. It's really a shame how many politicians just spout off, like Roca's piece, the subject of prejudice there. Asian women would not have been targeted if the former guy hadn't called the COVID the Asian flu. So I'm really tired of politicians just spouting off. They don't care if it hurts people, if people are murdered over their words. I was just talking, I'm just looking for votes. What I say doesn't really matter. But it has real life consequences for all of us. And I'm going to end this part of the conversation with a thought. We've all heard the saying, well-behaved women seldom make history. It's one of my favorite sayings, and all the women in this show and the women who run this gallery are not well-behaved women, and I hope all the women and the men here aren't either. Or as Congressman John Lewis said, make good trouble. Yes. Vote, make good trouble. We don't need to be kept down. We don't need to see our friends and family members kept down. We can be the solution. And that's what Congressman John Lewis wanted us all to remember. He gave his life for civil rights, and he's one of my favorite people. Unfortunately, passed away for a few years ago because we could still use his strong voice. But there's no reason why our voices can't be magnified. That was the point of this show. And the world, speak up, but also listen up. Now, if there are any questions, the artists are here. Feel free. Does anybody have any questions for the artists? Anybody? Okay, well, I guess that's all it is. We will just wrap up this show. Thank you so much for coming. And once again, go out there and make good trouble. We need you. Thank you for coming.